I work currently as a a special advocate in Disability Rights Wisconsin. What I do is basically work with families, victims. They have to have two elements in order for me to work with them. One of them is to have a disability, and the other one is to have a victimization, any kind of victimization. So it could be that somebody is treated bad in the apartment complex, or somebody is being sexual assault, somebody is being robbed in the street. It's many different situations, but basically it has to have a victimization. And what I noticed is that it was a lot of services in the community, but my community, especially my community, didn't know the services. So it was sad because, first of all, they didn't know they have rights as a victim. And secondly, because there was a lot of services in our community that my community didn't have access to, but they didn't have knowledge of. So I thought it was very good for me, an opportunity for me to help bridge that gap. So, and this is what I try to do every day. A lot of them. That is a reality. Especially a female in a white community and being in a minority. Many of my community, unfortunately, have a lot of lack education. They didn't have the privilege to go to school. Not because they didn't choose to go to school. They didn't have that choice. Many of them because the parents, especially the father of the house, think that the school was meant to be for boys, but not for girls. So it's very hard for someone when you're 40 or you're 35 to start from zero. And I think we take it for granted that we were able to have that privilege and to be able to know how to read and write. We take it until even today, they assuming that everybody knows that, but they don't. Many times people make the comments that how we don't learn a language. It's hard, especially when you learn it later in life. It's hard. You still have an accent. You still have words that doesn't come easy. But imagine when you didn't even know your basic in your own language. To learn another language is very hard. You learn basic stuff in your school. You learn what is the subject, what is the beginning of the story, the middle of the end. And then you develop that process through your school years or your elementary schools. But when you don't have that, so that's even tougher. So sometimes many people that I encounter, some of my clients and families, it's a shame. They don't come and tell you, I don't know how to read and write. It comes probably later on when you start develop any kind of rapport with your client. But it's still to me, to this day, it challenged me how they go through life without not be able to read and write. And the expectation of society thinking that they know that. So the other part is because, unfortunately, many of them came here to work, but the immigration status is still undocumented. So that's still a big challenge in our community. We choose two artifacts. One is a play that was given to me by I was nominated by one of my biggest mentors, which it was the former director of the Sexual Assault Center. And she nominated for the award, the Stay Award. And her name also, which I didn't know until I kind of researched a little bit, was that she was an officer. And she died in a car accident on duty. So the award was given to me for my services at the Sexual Assault Center. That's my first plate. The other one is a Brown County Sheriff's Department. I work with them in many cases, but especially in one that it was very lengthy, the process. So they nominated me for that in 2017. go to the person that you're more comfortable with, so it can guide you with. But if you don't have that person, one of the centers or one of the places that most likely will have somebody that's trained to help you could be, for example, Casa Alba Melanie, the Hispanic Resource Center in Green Bay. Some of the churches in Green Bay, most likely the pastor, the person that holds the outreach, or the person that speaks Spanish in one of the churches, the main churches in Green Bay. And the police department most likely is somebody that does prevention and outreach. What I meant an outreach is somebody that understands the resources of the community. But again, if you have a child in the school, your social worker will be the best bet, your guidance counselor. If you belong to any of the churches, talk to some of the pastor, or that's the people that normally has trained, and they be able, if they don't have the resources themselves, they be able to navigate the system and be able to contact you with someone. They be able to listen to you and see what is the best options for the situation that you are at. So again, if you're a victim of domestic violence, if you're a victim of sexual assault, if you're a victim of fraud, did you feel that somebody's taking advantage of you, please reach for those resources and ask for help. Not only victims are female, and unfortunately, all the literature that you find most likely talk as a victim as a female, but it's not true. We work with so many boys or males, which for them is even harder to seek help, because as a society, we tend to perceive man as the stronger, and it cannot be break, and all that stereotypes that sometimes when it comes to a trauma are very questionable about. So that is important that we understand that. The second is to get help, because what I mentioned before is something that you take the pain and the guilt. Remember, is most likely perceived as a victim that it was your fault. And what you learn with help is that it's never your fault. Nobody asked for that. Nobody asked for being hit or to being victimized, or in any way in a specific case of being sexual assault. And the other one, that sexual assault is not a problem of one advocate or one institution. I think it's a community institution as well as a community problem. So I think as a community, we need to help victims. And one of the ways that we can help victims is believe in them, because when you believe in them, you can understand what they went through, why maybe they didn't tell the story, why they have to embrace in many things in order to survive. Many times we tend to judge very quickly, but many of the times we don't know the facts. So the best way we can do as community members is to believe them, because that include and open the door that person can be healed. In any kind of incident, doesn't have to be sexual assault, could be a domestic violence, could be anything else. Just look for help. Is what we also learn as advocates is when you tell to a third party, to someone to listen to you, it will heal you, it will help you. So just that, keep in mind that talk to someone sometimes is much better than that keep that secret.